Yeah, well, I'd say pick an area that not much is happening and areas where you're saying, gosh, I wish there was this out there. And then think about what the product is. In our case, it's easy because we're an academic lab and our mission is to discover new concepts, show proof of principle. I'm a believer academics are terrible at scaling. They generally think they're good at it, but they're not. Companies are really good at that. So in our lab, if we discover something interesting or show proof of principle, we think, gosh, wouldn't that be valuable if that went out to the whole world? Then we'll spin off a company. Not every time, but just sometimes. And that's where QBio and January AI came out of. They were like, this big data stuff would be very, very powerful for helping people better manage their health. And January AI on the metabolic side. And there's a zillion other things out there one could do as well. So I think if you're out there and you're saying, gosh, I wish there were this, and it has to be scalable. It can't just be a cute idea. It has to be a system that everybody wants or you think should want, should be useful. And I think that's the key. Now, in my case, what I like to think I'm a okay scientist, but I know I'm not a good business person. So I always team up with a business person to help formulate the business plan. And then essentially between the science and the business, we'll spin off something that we think will be highly impactful. And so fortunately, it's worked out that way. One company called Personalis, they're doing great. They were a genome sequencing company. We set that up after we sequenced my genome and realized, gosh, this is pretty powerful. I don't want my lab sequencing, tens of thousands of genomes. This is what a company should do. And so they set up to do that. Now they're just way, they're orders of magnitude better than my lab at sequencing and interpreting genomes. They've pivoted mostly to the cancer space because that's where the market is. But anyway, they went public a couple of years ago and did very well. So bottom line is, again, once we set up something, think it's kind of useful to get out to the world, then we spin it off. And so I think for those of you who are out there, you can do the same. I like to bounce ideas off of, I have some entrepreneur friends or venture capitalists, I should say. I usually bounce my ideas off them and they'll refine it and say, well, Mike, you really need to think about how to scale that bigger because that's only going to hit a small market. And nobody's going to want to invest in you. So the way we do it, I guess, to get in more detail, I'm sure most of the listeners know this, but we'll, come up with a concept, talk to venture capitalists who would be willing to fund this. And we like to find venture capitalists who will stay with us, who might invest in early rounds, but continue later, possibly all the way till the time we go public.